The details of this case are, I mean, just absolutely horrific. And it went on for a very long time, to a little boy who previously had, it all appears, to have had a happy life with his dad before he and his dad moved in with his stepmother, Emma Tustin. His father was found guilty of manslaughter, Emma Tustin of murder. But the big issue here is, the fact that people were raising the concerns. Neighbours raised concerns. A grandmother saw bruising. The little boy was visited by a social worker, but they didn't see the signs of the abuse. This has happened time and time again, and it's happened again now. How?
Well, it's the nature of the work that we try to do, and we try to do it every day under tremendous pressure, I have to say. There's over 400,000 children each year referred to social services in England. Yeah. And there's 550 plus new investigations, child protection investigations started in England each day of the year, 7 days a week. So there's a lot of activity around. And the difficulty within all of that is spotting those children who really require quick and drastic action to make sure that they're kept safe. And that's the hard bit, because we have to build up that picture. We're dependent on families, relatives, etc. And in Arthur's case, they were very on the ball in terms of providing information about what was happening, but also from schools, from neighbours. We need to build up that picture of what's happening.
Yeah, and that's again very difficult.
And the difficulty, Julia, in building up that picture is that when we don't have the time to do what we need to be doing, to find out what we need to be finding out, to see what we need to be seeing, we sometimes don't get it as well as
we don't hear about all the cases where children are rescued and do survive, of course, and I realise that. And again, there's no doubt at all the pressure on social workers is absolutely extraordinary. Often don't get the time to visit people, and again, they're in much more limited contact. But again, these children often they need safe adults they can talk to, who can perhaps see that something's going wrong. Often for young children, that is teachers, and then that wasn't the case in this time. We have chosen not to play one piece of video and audio which we've been given by the courts have allowed us to play. It's CCTV of the little boy where he was waking up in his makeshift bed, a duvet on the floor of the sitting room next to a sofa. He wasn't allowed to sleep on the sofa. The CCTV cameras put in by his father to check that he'd slept where he was supposed to sleep, not allowed to sleep in a bed. This was while he was being systematically starved and poisoned with salt and beaten. And he is wailing and screaming and crying about how he's not loved. Nobody loves me. Nobody loves me. We played the video and we saw it this morning, and the whole team, we all just stood there. I mean, absolutely horrified, shivers down our spines. I felt physically sick just hearing a child talking like that. And we agreed that actually we didn't want to inflict that on our listeners, because once you've heard it and seen it, you can't unhear it and unsee it. But we can hear the 999 call that was made by the woman who inflicted the injuries that eventually killed young Arthur. And this is the beginning of that phone call.
Ambulance service, is the patient breathing?
Barely.
Okay, is he breathing right now, though, even if he's...
Is he breathing, Tom? He keeps taking big dark breaths. Basically, my 6-year-old stepson is falling, he's banged his head.
Okay.
And while he was on the floor, he's banged his head another 5 times.
Okay.
He's lost colour, he's got a big lump on his head.
Awake.
Now, this indicates part of the problem, doesn't it, Professor Ray Jones, where you've got a child being a victim of cruelty, but of course the parents are very good liars. This woman, very convincing. We've got this body cam image, the police arriving, very convincing, very worried about this little boy. But of course, she was the one who'd actually inflicted the injury that was causing him to need an ambulance.
Yes, and in this instance, we have the video evidence, etc., of what had been going on for a long time. And one of the things, Julia, I would say, and this is what's really, if you like, hard, and I feel quite distressed as I say this, thinking about what's been happening, is that this is what social workers are trying to deal with every day.
Yeah.
They have to be open to think about the absolutely awful things that may be happening when they're not there. They have to be imaginative, to be thinking, this could be going on. We don't necessarily know that it is, but we need to be finding more out about what is happening. We have to think the terrible things that could be happening are happening within the families that we sometimes have contact with. And that's what's really difficult. Not only is it a job that requires people to have more time, actually it's a job that requires people to have the time to think awful things rather than trying to close work down quickly to take on new work.
Yeah.
That's what's really painful.
And often those who are most cruel to their children are the best at hiding it. We've seen this again and again, haven't we? And that is what's so terrible. This little boy, when schools did reopen, didn't go back to school. He was already so emaciated. I think they realised that would be a red flag to teachers who would have spotted it. But no alarm was raised that this little boy. There was a phone call from a teaching assistant, and that was it. A phone call, not even visiting the house. Not that it should perhaps be the school's responsibility to do that. But 100,000 children have disappeared from schools since lockdown, just not come back. The real worry is that this will be happening to other kids. This could to the point of death, and we just don't know.
No, we don't know. We should be very, very concerned about this. We actually ought to make sure that we have the capacity and the time to get out and find out what is happening to those 100,000 children. And we don't have that capacity and time. Yeah. We're so busy working with the children that we do know about, that we are already concerned about, that we're not necessarily going out and finding out about those children that we don't know about. That's a really crucial issue. Yeah,
and especially when you go, the really important thing there is that anyone who is concerned does raise an issue. But as you say, so many children. In fact, the figure is 1 in 5 children being referred to social services in total. 1 in 5. That's a huge number. I really appreciate you joining us. Thank you very much.